In the services section in GBP, Google automatically assigns us services. Yes, that's correct. Can you explain how that works and how to optimize services section in GBP? Yeah, I talk about this in my audits. Google is going to automatically append services that, well, number one, it has in its own database. Guys, services are applied based upon categories, Google business categories. So if you go into the services section of a GBP, guys, and you have multiple categories, you'll see that services are nested under categories. And so what I'm saying with category or with services is Google automatically, based upon the website that the GBP is connected to, when Google crawls the site, that's why it's important to have the site optimized properly too. Google is going to pull in phrases or search queries that are present in the site and that are also present in its own database for that it has already found to be common in those categories. That makes sense. And so Google is going to automatically apply a bunch of the services to the categories. And a lot of the times you'll see it's redundancy. It's the same service, just using variated terms, right? So like tree pruning service, tree trimming, tree trimming and pruning. You might see all of those listed under the tree service category. And so that's fine. I just leave them there because, I used to back in the day, I used to go back and kind of when Google would suggest services, I would go in and delete them if they weren't 100% relevant or if they were redundant, I would delete them. But then, especially once you have, you'll find that Google will end up automatically suggesting or appending, modifying them anyways at some point down the road. And then you have to go back and do it again. And so finally I gave up. I said, I'm not going to fight this anymore. I'm just going to leave it. What I recommend though, is that for any services that are important enough to have a dedicated page on the self-hosted site, that you make sure that that service title, that service name is listed in as a service in the appropriate category in the Google Business Profile with the same service title as it is listed on the main website. It doesn't matter if there's other variants that are redundant, duplicated, just variants of that same term. Leave those other ones there. But for any service that is important enough to have a page on the site, a dedicated page for on the site, have that same service name listed as a service in the GBP, and then optimize that description. It's only 300 characters. It's 2 to 3 sentences max. That's it. 300 characters max. So go in and optimize those. That way, it's a signal to Google that the GBP, those particular services with the same service name as the page on the site, has an optimized description where the others don't. So that signifies to Google that's an important page. And then when Google crawls the site, and the site has a dedicated page for that particular service. Do you understand? It makes those services stand out because in the Google Business Profile, because they have optimized descriptions, and then the self-hosted site provides agreement. Thank you, Ted Kubitis, for that term. But the self-hosted site provides agreement with how the GBP is optimized, and vice versa. That makes sense. So don't fight all those additional categories. What I do services. What I do recommend is if you add all the relevant categories, that you go in and order and arrange the services into the appropriate categories, and then leave all of the ones that Google suggests. Just optimize the specific ones that are titled to match the service pages on the site. Okay, hopefully that's clear. Moving on. Did you